Welcome to the bold analysis. Since the 18th of June, President Ruto has broken a record that for the last 1 month, the President of the Republic of Kenya has not flown out of the country. That is the first time since William Ruto was inaugurated in the office 2 years ago. Now, as we speak now, African Union leaders are gathering in Accra, Ghana to chart the continent's future. And as the screenshot you can see, this summit that was expected to discuss strategies for boosting education, economic integration, and peace is supposed to end on 21st, that will be on Sunday, tomorrow. The delegates across Africa convened on Thursday for 45th Ordinary Session of the African Union AU Executive Council. The meeting, which runs until 21st July, that is Sunday, aims to assess the progress on the continent's integration agenda and chart a path for the building resilient education system. The event, which is deemed an education of African fit for the first century, underscores the critical role of education in Africa's development. And this critical summit has been skipped by William Samoei Arap Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and even the Ministers' ordinary session has also been skipped by Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, who yesterday, when the president announced the much hyped cabinet slots, was tagging along the president. So William Ruto has skipped this meeting, and significantly another development just related to this I would want us to look at is this here, that Kenya also launched a bid to host the African Union humanitarian agency to Uganda at the meeting that was not also attended by Mudavadi. Kenya was bidding to host the African Union humanitarian agency, but that bid has been lost to Uganda in one of the latest developments from the meeting that is happening in Accra, Ghana. This meeting was critically important because William Ruto was supposed to attend in his capacity as the champion of the institutional reforms that are supposed to, institutional reforms of the African Union. Part of the deliberations was supposed to discuss peace, operationalization of the African Union Peace Fund, and there is also need to reduce dependence on international matters. And the other concern was also renewed effort to achieve the ambitious goals of 2020-63 agenda. The high-level discussions also set the stage for the coming days as African leaders work towards shaping the continent's future, as much as the 2025 African Union budget. So William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi did not attend that meeting. I want to explain more about that, having looked at it. The President of the Republic of Kenya had been appointed as the African Union chairperson, a champion for institutional reform by the AU Assembly Heads of State and Government, replacing the President of Rwanda. And at a time, the skipping of this meeting has been seen on two perspectives. One is the context that it was a platform for Raila Odinga, the platform for Kenya, to lobby for votes. It was a opportunity for Raila Odinga to dine and mingle with the continental voters who hold destiny to the fate of his chairperson, African Union chairperson bid, election that is supposed to happen next year in February. Just like the ministerial roundtable that was held in Zanzibar some 2 weeks ago, Raila Odinga attended alongside Musalia Mudavadi in Zanzibar and I can just share a snippet of a speech from Zanzibar here.
Nataka tu nimshukuru mwenyekiti wa mkutano huu wa faragha kwa kupeana nafasi kidogo ili mwenzetu Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga apate nafasi ya kujitetea kidogo kwetu kama mawaziri wa East African Community ama mambo za nchi za kigeni kutoka East African Community. Nataka nitoe shukrani sana kwa niaba yangu binafsi na pia kwa niaba ya serikali ya Kenya kwa upendo wenu kukubali apate nafasi kidogo ya kuzungumza nasi. Jambo la pili, ningependa tu kusema kwamba mkishamsikia tafadhali mumweke kwa mawazo yenu na fikira zenu, ili hivi karibuni labda baada ya ushawishi wote tunaweza kuwa na matokeo mazuri ya eneo hili.
So this was also an opportunity for Raila Odinga to campaign, and one of the signals coming from it is that maybe Raila Odinga is getting more dissatisfied of presenting his candidature for the African Union chairperson position, and could be looking into internal politics remaining within the Kenyan political space, and that can still be confirmed by his recent really opposed move to have a working relationship with President Ruto. Some people have been asking why Raila still wants to is lobbying for cabinet slots while he is supposed to put his energy in campaigning for the African Union chairperson bid. Raila Odinga is also reported to have left the country last evening, heading to the Middle East alone with only a close family member, and not tagging along the usual faces of Joho and Junet, in what is also seen as a move to just, at least move away after receiving the backlash on his working relationship with President Ruto. So probably, even if President Ruto was not to attend or Mudavadi was to skip, but the presence of Raila Odinga will be essential as much as his campaigns are concerned. So what we can also confirm is that Raila left the country on Friday evening and will not be in Ghana, will not be in Ghana to campaign for that position. That position, there have been an East African twist after Tanzania also presented the candidature of, also presented a candidate, and probably the African Union, the East African community could be vouching for the candidature of the Tanzanian candidate. So much is at stake. So two things you can see: Musalia Mudavadi skipped the ministerial one, and William Ruto was also supposed to be there over the weekend. There are no signs that William Ruto is going there, so he also ought to have skipped. And even Raila Odinga, who is vying for the African Union chairperson position, who was also supposed to be probably part of this, has also skipped the session despite of the invitation. Now, I think the Gen Z have grounded President Ruto in Kenya, and I will explain why President is afraid of leaving Kenya at this critical time because of the situation. Even last week, I think that was like 2 weeks ago, there was another invitation by Kenya to attend NATO summit in the US, and that was coming just the first summit after Kenya was designated as non-NATO US ally. NATO US ally, and Kenya had reserved a seat. There is a seat that had been reserved for Kenya, but because of the latest developments, President Ruto could not leave the country. The complexity of handling Gen Z is what has grounded President Ruto in Kenya. And were it not for just the way I've seen people talking casually about what they think should be done and what is right or wrong, that in my assessment, the Gen Z protest is very complex, and those who want to take it casual are not finding it easy because they've held their ground. And so, this is the reason why William Ruto cannot leave the country now. It's very complex. And let me just explain what happens when the president is away. You just need to ask that. So when the president is away, what happens? And compare that with the last protest that Raila Odinga was leading. The last protest that Raila Odinga team were leading last year, he could leave, and then the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, would wake up in the morning and meet security chiefs and promise the country the way they are going to shoot people around and this and that. But this time things are different. Number one, there is something that William Ruto is seeing with the current Gen Z unrest. Any understanding that the president is out of the country, there is a lot of mistrust in the security sector and internal upheavals within the security sector, and probably they can lose command or an internal sabotage can emerge. What am I saying? President Ruto and some quarters believe that what happened on 25th June could have also bordered some internal sabotage. And I remember when IG Comey I believe IG Comey was fired. Probably in the interest of time, we will know. But whatever was reported as voluntary resignation could be a forced resignation for him to be fired just to save the face. And what do you think would happen if the president is away and people occupy the protected spaces? The military takeover will be in the offing. And the military takeover, in the absence of the president, would actually change everything for President Ruto. And one of the reasons why I believe Ruto cannot make the move to leave the country is because there is unprecedented outcome of this Gen Z protest. Remember, one of the contentious reasons, one of the contentious issues that Kenyans have been raising against President Ruto is, non-essential travel. And they've been asking the president to account for every single trip that is done outside the country and what such a trip has brought for the nation. So if in any case he's going to make that and the public happen to know, it can degenerate into an uproar and you never know how it will come out. And if in any case a state house is even to be occupied, is to be stormed, the military will have no option but to take over. And let me pause a bit and ask this. I have seen the Sahel nations of West Africa, and I know quite senior members of this channel have been advising that Kenya should not go the military route. But I've seen the military generals, the juntas taking over government in West Africa. And like Traore has been having a field day, he's been getting traction. And even if you want to know, this will not be something out of the moon, because the day the president tried to unleash the military in the streets of Nairobi so that they can scare away the Gen Z, the tables turned, and in fact the public embraced the military. In fact, I can say, I've seen uoga yenye inauzwa, and Raila Odinga was talking about that, about if Ruto leaves, then the generals are going to take over and this and that. But is it really true that if generals are in charge, then the country is in tatters? I saw the day they were in the streets of Nairobi, they were welcomed by the population. So number one, I think there is a scare of military takeover if the Gen Z persists. Number two, the lack of solid National Security Council consolidated. Some members of the National Security Council are cabinet members and attorney generals, the interior, the ministry. But then the reason why you see the interior and you see that interior and the defense and attorney general had to be floated in the first batch is the constitution of National Security Council. National Security Council also has the Inspector General of Police. We don't have an Inspector General of Police. The person we have is on acting capacity. The NIS head has also been soiled. The reputation has also been soiled when Rigathi Gachagua leveled some allegations against him. So that is also part of it. Because if there is a security decision that is going to be made, it has to be made within the national security, by the National Security Council. In that National Security Council, if it's not constituted, it's a big mess. But then, just speaking about this, I saw some statement. It's in Twitter by some pro-government bloggers. They are saying the reason why Duale has to be retained, and they're defending the reason why Duale have been retained is because of the peace treaties, military deals between Kenya and the US and other countries. And because those are high secrets and he had already come through within the military ranks, understands in and out what's happening, it would have been a disaster to pick someone else. And Kenyans have responded asking, so how about if Duale is not there? Can that still be taken somewhere? So, and probably that is part of the story, that is part of defense unit to justify why the president have retained the two dockets of Kindiki and Duale. Now, that is the second reason, lack of solid National Security Council. Number three, and this is also worrying President Ruto, is Rigathi Gachagua's hands-off mantra on protests. Let me tell you, if you compare the Gen Z protests and the one that was happened in 2023, the one for 2023, Rigathi was issuing threats and statements every day, attacking and calling Raila all manner of names. Because according to him by that time, Raila was the problem that was affecting Kenya and not the people that were protesting. Now, if you compare that with 2024 Gen Z protests, even Rigathi Gachagua's constituency in Madeira, that is Karatina, there were protests on Tuesday. And if you are keen, there is something those protesters were saying. They were saying that why Musalia Mudavadi has been left. Okay? Why Musalia Mudavadi, that's part of it, that if you've dissolved the parliament, then why have you left Musalia Mudavadi? That accusation was leveled. Now, what does that show you? From where William Ruto is, Rigathi Gachagua have had mantra of hands off. From the onset of the protest, there is a clique of advisors around President Ruto had been saying that Rigathi Gachagua is part of the team that have been fooling the protest. So just because of that, and that's why when I was doing analysis, I asked you, what is supposed to happen if the president is not there? It's the deputy to take a charge. So because of the current, lack of good relationship with the deputy, President Ruto is really fearful of what would then come out. The other aspect I'm seeing, the fourth reason is Ruto is fearful of the diplomatic warfare with Washington amid the protests. I think they've blamed some foreign powers on what's happening in the country, and there's a lot of mistrust. Probably what he flies with is the flight and all that, and he's been borrowing to fly out of the country. That is not it. And lastly, I also see Occupy JKA move can be mooted if the president is seen as being insensitive. But by the way, the Gen Zs can say they want to occupy JKA. So probably that's it. But I feel there is something also we can read. If you read the mood, Raila Odinga is out of AU chairperson bid. I'm not seeing government talking about it. I'm not seeing officials. I'm not seeing campaigns. probably, and the deadline is supposed to be 6th of August, even though the papers were supposed to have been submitted by 30th of June, and that has not been done, there are every sign to believe that Raila is out of the race. Thank you, guys.